All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're doing an explainer that's going to take us on a pretty wild ride. We're going from the incredibly gritty, chaotic streets of 18th century Paris straight into the cutting-edge world of modern data science. We're not just going to rehash a list of dates about the French Revolution. Nope, we're actually digging into the raw data, the forgotten voices, and the literal mathematical flow of how radical ideas swept a nation.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. A society in crisis. 2. Words sparking a revolution. 3. Women of the revolution. 4. The data of democracy. And 5. A lasting legacy. Section 1. A society in crisis.
To really get why this revolution happened, you have to picture the absolute extremes of French society under absolutism. It was literally two different worlds. On one side, you've got the privileged nobility living in this unimaginable, opulent luxury, just completely detached from reality. And on the other side, the commoners, the laborers and peasants who are breaking their backs day in and day out just trying to survive. Let's look at the actual numbers here, because they're honestly staggering. To build the Palace of Versailles, it cost 76 million livres. The king had an outfit for receiving an ambassador that was covered in diamonds worth 12 million livres. And to put that into perspective, a highly skilled mason worked an entire year to earn just 180 livres. Meanwhile, a single pound of beef cost 0.15 livres. You do the math. The system was completely unlivable for the common people. They were being squeezed dry. And that kind of massive economic disparity has real, desperate human consequences. Listen to this translated grievance from a rural worker back then. He's lamenting that grain prices keep falling because the king wants cheap bread for the city workers, but the local lords are still demanding their heavy taxes. He literally asks, what is left for us to live on? It's the sound of a system that's pushed its people right past the breaking point. Section 2. Words sparking a revolution. Now, it wasn't just crushing poverty fueling this fire. It was a huge clash of ideas. We're talking about a stark ideological collision. On one hand, you have the old absolutist mindset, championed by guys like Jean Baudin, who argued that the prince is literally God's image on earth, meaning his rule is divine, period. You don't question it. But then you have the Enlightenment thinkers pushing back. You've got Immanuel Kant saying, sapere, have courage to use your own understanding. It's a total shift from blind obedience to actual, critical, independent thought. And those Enlightenment ideas, they were a powder keg. Look at how fast things exploded in 1789. May, the Estates General meets. By June, the Third Estate breaks off and forms the National Assembly. Come July, the Bastille is stormed in open revolt. And by August, they issue the Declaration of Rights. In just a few months, centuries of deeply entrenched tradition are completely dismantled. Which brings us to the bedrock document itself, Article 1 of the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Men are born and always continue free and equal in respect of their rights. This is it. This is the revolutionary assertion that sovereignty belongs to the nation, not to some king, and that liberty is a natural human right. It totally changed the course of history. Section 3. Women of the Revolution. But hold on a second. When we look closer at this brand new society, we really have to ask, who was actually included in this equality and who was left out? Because despite those grand, sweeping declarations of universal freedom, women were officially denied political rights and were mostly just expected to stay home. Yet women were absolutely crucial in driving this revolution, and they did it from two totally different vectors. You had the salonières. These were wealthy, highly educated women hosting private gatherings, debating philosophers, and wielding massive behind-the-scenes influence over politicians. And then you had the sans-culottes. These were fierce, radical working-class women who physically took to the streets to protest bread prices and really provided the sheer physical momentum for the revolution. But it's a really tragic paradox, because the incredible courage of these figures was often met with brutal consequences. You had incredibly bold women stepping up, like Olympe de Gouges, who literally wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Women and fought hard against slavery, or Pauline Léon, who formed a radical female militia. But the chaotic politics of the Reign of Terror were entirely unforgiving. Many of these female pioneers, including de Gouges, ended up being sent to the guillotine by the exact same radical men they had helped empower. Section 4. The Data of Democracy. Okay, this is where it gets incredibly cool. We're going to look at this history through the lens of a modern academic paper.
Data scientists took over 40,000 speeches from the very first parliament of the revolution and analyzed them using a mathematical concept called Kullback-Leibler divergence. Basically, they mapped how ideas spread by measuring two things. First, novelty. Is a speaker bringing in a completely new pattern of words or ideas? And second, transience. Does that new idea just fade away, or does it stick around and get adopted by other speakers? And what the math reveals about their political strategies is just fascinating. The data clearly shows that left-wing speakers like Robespierre were constantly injecting highly novel concepts into the debate. They were the innovators. But the right-wing speakers like Abbé Maury, the researchers actually call them inertial dampeners. They actively work to anchor the conversation, preserving past traditions and trying to slow down the runaway train of the revolution.
So how did the innovators eventually win out? Well, the assembly actually had an overall innovation bias, meaning novel ideas were naturally rewarded. But the real game changer happened midway through. There was this huge institutional shift where newly formed behind-the-scenes committees suddenly gained the power to propose and dispose of ideas. So while the great orators were out on the floor battling it out publicly, the data shows the left ultimately secured its revolutionary laws by mastering this quiet, bureaucratic committee system.
Section 5. A lasting legacy.
The strategies and the data of 1789 didn't just fade into the history books. They quite literally built the foundation of the modern world. Take a look at Article 20 of the modern German Basic Law. It says, all state authority is derived from the people. That exact Enlightenment principle, the one that caused so much upheaval and bloodshed in 18th century France, is now the codified bedrock of modern democratic constitutions everywhere. Those novel ideas achieved ultimate permanence.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to chew on. We've just seen exactly how ideas flow, how they are fiercely contested, and how they eventually become institutionalized. When we look at our own society today, with our massive flow of information and nonstop debates, who are the innovators and who are the inertial dampeners shaping our future right now? And which of today's novel ideas will master the system to become the permanent laws of tomorrow? Think about that.